if I can ask, like, wait, who benefits from me feeling this way? It like connects something new in my brain because it's not me. It's rarely my family. I mean, it's like, oh, right. This is patriarchy, a corporation, an economy designed to keep me feeling really bad about myself. So I'm always buying more and feeling inadequate and feeling unworthy. It's like, what? No, I'm not going to fall for this. Like, the most radical thing I could do is like celebrate myself and feel like I deserve pleasure and go tell other women that that's true for them too.
Hey, y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. Today, I am so excited to bring you Dr. Kimberly Rose Pendleton as my guest. She is a speaker, teacher, and the founder of Uncover, a global movement for pleasure-based healing and women's liberation. With a PhD in women's studies and intimacy, she helps women reclaim their power and heal from the conditioning of purity culture. You can find her sharing her mission for unapologetic freedom on Instagram. And I am so excited about this episode because I just love Dr. Kimberly. I love everything she's about. I have taken some of her courses right now. I am super excited to be in her Mary Magdalene Mystery School and diving into all the things that she teaches. And in this episode today, we're diving into all things pleasure and how purity culture has disconnected us from our pleasure, our complicated relationship with desire, and why she chose Mary Magdalene as the path to connect us to pleasure, and how we can use this to get out of shame and the shame spiral that so many of us are stuck in, and really how subconscious it is for so many of us. I love this episode so much because she's just such a dear soul, and there's so much to get out of this episode, and really to be able to let go of the shackles of shame and guilt in the world that we live in. So let's dive in. Okay, y'all, I'm here with Dr. Kimberly, and I am so excited. I told her before I hit record, I'm like fangirling over here because I see her like every day on Instagram. So I feel like I know her. And I get her emails, and I've done her anyway, I'm on all the things. I've been listening to her teach me about Mary Magdalene for so long. So I am so excited to have you. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your goodness.
Oh my gosh, I am so happy to be here. And like, I know in some way it has a lot of negatives too, but I love the internet that it like brings us together, and that there are honestly there's now like a network of us who like we're friends because of the internet.
Right. Yeah, totally. I know it does. It does have its perks. It has its positive sides. I love this. And I mean, I love everything that you teach and everything you stand for. We're so aligned. And I have so much I want to ask you, but I feel like first and foremost, I would love to hear. So you are all about teaching about Mary Magdalene and pleasure and letting go of shame and all of these really powerful things. I would love to know your journey to get to this point, because you have a PhD, which you could have done anything with that. And you chose to like, I am going to bring in this Mary Magdalene piece to women. And like, I would just love to know what brought you to this path?
Oh my gosh, such a fair question, because it was not the plan. Like, I was planning to be a teacher. I even had a teaching position, which is like very, like, you have won the lottery. It was teaching American religious history from post-war to Reconstruction. And I was just going to be like on my merry way as a professor. And now it's like so wild to imagine telling that version of me, like, actually, you start posting lingerie pictures of yourself on the internet and taking like pilgrimages of women to Paris and to the south of France. Like, what are you talking about? I would have been like, no, you must be thinking of someone else. Like, that cannot be me. But I learned about coaching, and it almost felt like this way of taking what I had learned and sharing it with more people in like an easier format. I mean, of course, there are hard things about it, but in a way, it's like so much more accessible than needing to like go get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. And like, I feel like I almost had this window open for me where I was like, wait, I could just put this online and anyone could come and like I could just invite them to join me, on a trip and we could just talk. In fact, you're telling me I could teach some of this stuff like at the Four Seasons in Paris over a croissant instead of like sitting in this library basement. Like that does sound better.
Yeah, a little bit.
I feel like bit by bit, I kind of like created my own university. I didn't really mean to, but it started as I was just finishing my PhD, teaching a few courses here and there, like online or at a local art studio where they would let people kind of teach their own classes. I started teaching Women's Studies 101 and the gender politics of reality TV, which was a really fun
Oh,
one
that's
to teach.
fun.
And then I started teaching these like sacred spirituality kind of circles. And, I didn't necessarily realize until I was like a few years in that I was attracting people who like me. And now I know this makes so much sense because usually we like draw in people who have a similar story to us, but people who had a church background, had maybe even had like positive, experiences with church and really loved church. That was my experience. But there was some kind of break, like shame or trauma or just like outgrowing certain things or deconstructing certain parts of their belief. Maybe didn't even want to leave all of it behind, but didn't know like where else to go. And that became like my specialty. It was like, if you feel spiritually homeless, if you feel like your religious kind of world maybe sort of messed you up in the realm of like your body and pleasure and sex, like now you're married, but you're like, I still feel shut down. Like that became my kind of like my main person.
Mm. Yeah. What was your experience with that? Like, I mean, you kind of touched on it a second ago. Like you said, I had a good experience, but there was this part. So what was your experience you wanted to bring this purity culture part into your work?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's so crazy to like think back on, but I really started with a more like a strict conservative church when I was a little bit older. I was already like a teenager. And then like in college started to really, I feel like that was my like main experience with purity culture. It wasn't as a kid, I went to like a very liberal Methodist church in California. I'm sure they like had opinions about sex, but that wasn't like a huge focus.
Yeah.
But when I
Yeah.
hit like 16, 17, which like is still like a pretty formative time, I started like going to this more evangelical, more conservative space. And I've been thinking about this part a lot. I don't know if this is like so specific and weird, but like maybe it will resonate for someone. But I remember thinking like I felt relieved that there were rules. Like I kind of felt like I feel like it's such like a hard to understand if you weren't ever in it because it just seems so oppressive. But I actually felt like comforted by it, if I'm like being really honest with myself, especially rules for men. It was like, look, being the boys, like, go get a job and like be respectful and like do all this stuff. I mean, there was something about it that I actually felt really, it helped correct, something that felt scary, gave like rules around something that felt like a little bit almost like dangerous. But I think what I didn't realize is that it was dangerous in a different way to me because it didn't teach, especially women, anything about like tuning in to themselves. And that's so much of my work now. But like it was really hard to learn to do that when I felt like our programming was really like, no, don't listen to yourself. Yourself is the last, voice
Yes.
you should be listening to. Like that voice is unreliable, like only God. So when I was 22, got married and like pretty quickly afterward got divorced. It was just like a really, really bad match. And we had followed all the rules, we'd waited, and then there just was never like, I think the best way to say it that's like respectful of my ex-husband's experience too is just like we just were friends, and and we were so young that we like didn't really understand what like sexual chemistry like would have been, I don't think. And so I sort of joke like we waited till marriage and then we just kept waiting afterward too. There's just never any together. And that like shook me more than I realized. So maybe like a year into being married, I left. And it was like really, really big scandal. It was like you are kicked out of Bible study, the harlot, like,
Yeah.
else. And it was like, oh my God, like you went from being like the good girl to like the worst woman. But it kind of set me free, like if I'm being so honest. And it sort of set me on this path of like, wait a minute, maybe there was more.
Yeah.
So and it's like topsy-turvy and all over the place. But now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. Of course, you needed this like education and this experience, and then you needed to be kicked out of Bible study, and you needed to be it's like you were in your cosmic curriculum to like help everyone
Yes.
who like wants to find herself. And now I'm like so thankful about every part of the journey, and I'm happily married and I have a baby, and I'm like, oh my God, like everything is so amazing. But wow, it did not seem like that was how it was going to go for a while. Sorry, it was so long.
No, it was good.
But thank you for just
No,
like holding the space.
for sure. No, it's, I mean, you have to connect all the dots, right? And see all the pieces and how they all work together. Like that's, I mean,
Yeah.
it's so, and of course, hindsight, you're looking back and it's so funny when you're telling your story. I have a very similar story. I was also married at 22, young, and it is just the same. We waited, we did all the right things, and it was just
Oh
not
my
good.
God,
And
you know
yes,
exactly.
so I know, yes. And it's like, it's such a hard thing. And there's so much shame around. I mean, yeah, the whole sex thing is one thing. And then there's the shame around the divorce in and of itself. It's like so taboo and, in the evangelical church. And there's a lot to that. But I love connecting all dots. And yes, of course, at the time, it's like, this is terrible. And all these, I feel terrible. It's all terrible. But it's seeing all that connected now, and that connects you to your work that you're doing now. I mean, that's such an amazing journey. And I mean, all of those are important pieces. And the piece I wanted to ask you about with I had one guest last year and we talked a little bit about purity culture, but in a totally different context.
Yeah.
I would love to touch on that piece because I know one of the things that you talk about in terms of purity culture and those who are like either coming out of it or healing from it or whatever is how it connect. And you said it then, how it affected you. It disconnects us from our pleasure. And I find sometimes that is a little, at least, and I speak for myself. I'm not speaking for everybody, but I find that for me, when I was coming out and healing, that I heard that so often, and it was hard for me to understand that. Like, no, like I know what pleasure is. Like I know what it is to feel good, but you don't. So I'd love for you to just, what were your thoughts on that piece?
Yeah. I'm so grateful to talk about this because sometimes I think about what would I have thought if I heard this conversation? In the moment, I honestly needed it the most. Like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I don't like, what do you even mean? And my definition of what pleasure even was, which I would never have said out loud, but it would have been probably exclusively about sex and like exclusively about physical intimacy, probably like with somebody else. And I might have been like, I don't know, it's fine, but it's like not a big deal. It's not a big part of my life. And I'm like doing just fine. But later, I feel like I started to connect more dots that were about guilt and shame and like the parts of me that I felt tempted to hide. And it was like, why do I feel like I can't admit that I would like love to go to Paris, or like I even feel guilty about like taking this day off and resting, or like ordering dessert and like eating it all, or like, oh, like I couldn't wear that, like that's too like flashy. I couldn't, possibly put like all my makeup on and do my hair and look good and walk down the street. Like what will happen? This will like cause a scandal. And just starting to think like, wait a minute, I'm actually so alienated from what I would now call pleasure. At the time, I think I just was like, I don't know, I think I'm like just being weird about life in general. But, I feel like with so many of my clients, sex is just one piece of the puzzle. And it's almost like the last piece, but it's so much more like, okay, but do I let myself relax? Do I let myself have beauty and like use the fancy candle and actually like ask my husband to take the kids to school and like I take a bubble bath, like things that kind of make you feel overwhelming guilt, but kind of seem like they shouldn't. Like, why do I feel like the worst person in the world just because like I said no to something I actually don't want to do? Or, I want to do what will make me feel good. It's so much coded into us about like what makes a good woman and a good girl and a good wife, definitely a good mom. And I now realize like how those are all so woven together. And then of course, like sometimes the more obvious like symptom is in bed when it's like, okay, I like feel totally frozen. But actually, I think it starts way before that when it's like, okay, am I allowed to like relax my shoulders and have this like cup of coffee in my favorite mug and like really be in the pleasure of this moment, you know?
Hey, y'all, we'll get right back to the episode. But first, let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire, and you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care, because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing. This isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality, and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the Quantum Reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show. Yes, that makes total sense. And I agree with you. I think we hear a lot about pleasure and purity culture and all that. And the only thing we're related to is sex. And I think that, like you said, I think that's the last step. I think that's the last thing, the last dot to be connected. All of the other things you talked about, like that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's almost like that will be a reflection of our relationship to pleasure in general.
Right.
And I even notice, I don't know, there's something like, it almost feels like we have a pleasure bank account or something. And if we like are filling it every day with like, okay, a little moment here, I'm enjoying that. I bought myself flowers. I like let myself wear what I wanted to wear. I got cozy. I journaled. Like I'm just like overflowing with my pleasure account, then like when there is a hard moment or a rupture or a feeling where like, I don't know, we're more depleted, pleasure queen, my God.
Kitty cat.
We have like so much more grace with ourselves and so much more to give. And I definitely noticed that spill over into the realm of sex and intimacy because it's like, if I'm feeling good all the time and my baseline is so pleasured and I am so just like on point with self-care and I just got a massage and I'm like feeling amazing and I'm doing this incredible work. And then I go into the bedroom. It's not like all the pressure is on that moment
Yes. Yes,
to fill
exactly.
this like completely empty, drained pleasure bank
Yes.
account. And like
Yes.
instead, it's like, oh, I'm like arriving and you're like the cherry on top, but I'm
Yeah.
already like doing great. It's
Yes.
a gift to our partners. Like it feels
Yes.
that shit is so sorry, that stuff is so selfish, but it's actually like part of giving them this gift of us being happy. And like, who doesn't want that?
For sure. Yeah. Well, and it's not like a switch you have to turn on in the moment when it's the
Yes.
moment hits and it's like, it's got to be performative. Like, let me turn it on real quick. And then it's that ruins the whole
Oh
experience.
my God, that's such a good way and more succinct than what I was saying, a way
Yeah.
to put it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think like the examples that you were giving too, I think it can be so much more simple than we make it. Like, yes, of course, the bubble baths and the massage and all those things are incredible and traveling to cool places and like all of that's great. But even like the simple things you said, like, can I ask my husband to pick the kids up
Right.
today so I can go do whatever I want to do, whatever it's a bubble bath, whatever. Like it's the little things like that. Can I sit with my coffee or my tea? And like really, it's like it's finding those moments throughout the day rather than waiting for like the big thing. Cause I think that's the other thing
Yeah,
women do is like we feel like we have to wait for that big thing to feel the pleasure. And it's like doesn't have to be the big thing.
that is such a good way to put it too. Yeah. And I think there is something about if you have it in little bits and microdose it kind of like all the time and it just becomes a little bit more your default,
Yeah.
it's so much less pressure on you in any one moment too. And you notice, or just for anyone who's listening to this and is already immediately going like, I can't do that. You just notice your conditioning. But like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it feels sometimes like the end of the world to say no or to let yourself or to say yes, to the
Mm-hmm.
things that would feel good. And I get that. But I would also say, I think this is where my like women's studies, like feminist PhD side comes in handy. But I find it's really helpful when I'm like feeling guilt or shame or critical of my body or like, holding myself up against some impossible standard. If I can ask, like, wait, who benefits from me feeling this way? It like connects something new in my brain because it's not me. It's rarely my family, I mean, it's like, oh, right. This is patriarchy, a corporation, an economy designed to keep me feeling really bad about myself. So I'm always buying more and feeling inadequate and feeling unworthy. It's like,
Yeah.
what? No, I'm not going to fall for this. Like, the most radical thing I could do is like celebrate myself and feel like I deserve pleasure and go tell other women that that's true for them too.
Yes, yes. That's how we dismantle the patriarchy. Let's be honest.
Yes,
Like that's
yes, yeah,
our active rebellions. Like, can you just
yes,
feel good unapologetically all the time?
right.
Like,
I,
that's
I
it.
think that's it. I really do. And I'm so, encouraged by what ended up happening when I started teaching more of this work and sharing my journey and like doing more and more coaching. I was like, oh, I'm not alone either in this. Like,
Mhm.
the only one who felt this way, first of all, but I'm also not the only one who's like, let's create something different. Let's create something different for our daughters and our sons and like the next generation. And like, wait, we're not just going to keep passing down this same bullshit. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, we can break the cycle. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
And I love the one of the I don't know, methodology is not the word I want to use, but one of the pathways, I guess is what I want to say, that you use to help women do this is Mary Magdalene, which I love. Like I've listened to so many of your little mini courses and stuff on that. And I started
Yeah.
studying Mary Magdalene last year, read some books and stuff, and then I found you and I'm like, it's so good. So I would love to hear too, just how that piece, you connected
Yeah.
that piece and decided to bring that in.
Oh my gosh. I am so happy. Yeah. As you know, I could talk about this part for like hours,
And I love it.
but it's so interesting. Yeah. I had this connection to Mary Magdalene kind of since I learned about her when I was lucky. I now know, and I did learn like from the beginning that she was not a prostitute. But I think just the fact that I also learned about like she was called one, I was immediately like, wait a minute. And I
Hold
think my
on.
little like feminist budding, scholar in me was like, but wait, why? Wait, what happened? What? And the more I went down that path, and even when I was in seminary, so I went to Yale Divinity School, and even though I didn't do the ordination track, I like took a lot of the courses that the pastors, for training pastors had. But like all the stuff that mentioned her, in fact, all the courses about gender and women and in general were like in the evening and like on the weekends and like on the edges of like our curriculum. But I learned more and more. And then this is so crazy, but the thing that really, really stood out, and when I feel like I really became like a little bit like hyper fixated on her was when I learned at Yale that she was this wealthy woman who had paid for Jesus's ministry. And it's like right there in the Bible. Like it's in Luke. It's like, oh yeah, Mary Magdalene and some other women like took care of them out of their own resources. And it's like mentioned a few other places too. I'm like, now wait a minute. You're telling me that there was this devoted follower who is this spiritual woman who had wealth that she like was feeding everybody. I knew about the alabaster jar thing. So like that kind of felt like, okay, well, that tracks. She had this incredible, like expensive anointing oil and is like known for that. Art about Mary Magdalene often has her holding like a perfume jar. So it's like, okay, how did I miss that there was this powerful spiritual pleasure? If she's got this anointing oil, like you probably care a little bit about pleasure, like devoted disciple. And what we know instead is that she got called a slut. Like this seems
Right?
crazy. And
Yes.
I think it clicked something for me because that felt really familiar. It was like, oh,
Mm.
yeah, whether that was on purpose or not, this is what we do. We don't know how to handle like a powerful woman, actually. And the quickest way to write her out of like an authoritative role in history is to call her a whore. And it felt kind of like, I don't know. It's not exactly like I felt like that had happened to me or that had happened to all of us, but there was like a hint of that. There was
Yeah.
like a hint of like, women recognize this. You can be so devoted. I mean, honestly, not that there's anything that wrong with being a prostitute in the first place, but it was like that this would be your legacy when the real story is so different. It felt like it lit this like fire in me and I couldn't shut up about it. So yeah, it's like some people find that, especially if we come from the Christian tradition, it can be really healing to learn more about her and to be like, oh, we actually do have a blueprint that we can look to of a woman who is like in her power, in her pleasure, and like supporting, these causes and deeply devoted. It's like, well, we don't have that archetype really, but the spiritual, wealthy, woman who like we can really look up to, who's like really guided by love, like this is so helpful. This is so helpful to have. And when you look at the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which isn't canonical, which I have good thoughts about why not, um, like the main thing she's saying is just we're all loved. We can all access God. And it feels really sacred to have that in her words, to say, in one of my programs, we read the Gospel of Mary Magdalene together. And it's like so interesting, just the feeling in your body when it's like, and in the Gospel of Mary, because you never hear like a woman's name at the end of that sentence.
Yeah.
So I have clients who are like, I don't know anything about this. She just seems cool. And I'm like here for the goddess vibes. But then I have some who are like, no, I was raised Christian and this is like healing a part of me because women were mentioned at all. And actually they were core to the story. And then this is like not my area of expertise at all, but I think it's so interesting. But a couple of my clients are Muslim and are like, we have a similar woman in our tradition.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a wife of Muhammad who paid for everything and like hardly ever gets credit as like a very similar figure. And I was like, oh, I have chills. Like, yeah,
my God, I did not know that.
I know.
That's crazy.
Right. And of course, for my Jewish clients, sometimes it can be so empowering to be like, yeah, Mary Magdalene was a Jewish girl.
Right.
She was like, one of us.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, there are so many. I definitely also get some reactions from people like, what are you talking about? But for the people who are drawn to it, like there's so many pathways in and so many ways it can just be so healing to have as a pathway or like new connection to spiritual tradition that maybe felt like women didn't really play a significant role. And it's like, oh, that could not be further from the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think her story, I mean, it transcends religion, right? If you're a woman, then it transcends religion. I think that's the piece there. It's, yes, her story, why it was covered up, who she really was, what she really did, all of that. Like, yeah, I love that. So for the women who are in your world and you're using, Mary Magdalene and, kind of what you're saying, like those like priestess vibes, what is it women receive when they are able to open themselves up to like fully stepping into their pleasure, like fully release it? Well, I say shame. We all know it's a process, but I guess my question is, what's on the other side of that for women when we choose that?
Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful for that question. I've been thinking about it a lot because by the time it's your normal life, you almost can take it for granted. Or I mean, I should just say about me, I can take it for granted, because bit by bit you build it and day by day it becomes your normal. But it's like, if I stop and think about what I thought was possible to feel and to have and be doing, and then I look at, just how comfortable I feel in my skin, how loved I feel in my marriage, like how non-performative it feels and how relaxed and like juicy and alive everything feels. I'm like, this is shocking. And so, I mean, some of it I feel like I can notice in little details where I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I can like tell that even just the way I'm thinking about life and what I want and what's possible for me is so different. I would never have guessed that I could run $1 million a year business where I like take women to Paris. Like this is like completely insane. But then, kind of like we were saying earlier, it's like small moments too, where I'm just walking with Rosie, my daughter, like in the park and just feeling like I don't have that hum in my head of like, you're bad anymore. And looking at her, I'm like, I hope my work doesn't even make sense to you. Like, I hope you grow up just being like, what are you even
What,
talking
right.
about?
That's a thing. Yes,
Yeah,
totally.
I don't even get it because it would just so signify like we did it. Women have been carrying around so much shame and so much guilt, and that can get replaced with feeling really content, feeling pleasure, feeling proud of yourself, trusting your desires, knowing that if you want something, that's God talking to you. Like, and you're meant to have it. That's not like a dangerous pathway to the devil kind of thing. That's like
Yes.
data
Yes.
about you, who you are and what you're meant for. And, I mean, for some of my clients, it does mean, and it did for me, like boudoir shoots and like letting yourself dress up and letting yourself go on dates and have like incredible moments. And for others, it's just like, no, I was just allowed to like read my book on the couch without feeling guilty.
Yeah.
But like is honestly like so significant.
Yeah. Yeah. All of it is. All of it is. When it all adds up. And like you said, I mean, the way I see it is we were saying at the beginning, it's like being the cycle breakers, like being the pattern breakers. And
Yeah,
like our daughters,
yeah,
I have a daughter too, can grow up being like, what are you talking about? I can always access my pleasure. Like, what is it? That's not
yes,
even a thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's the piece.
no. It's awesome to think about, right?
Yeah, totally. No, it is. That's the good part. For women listening who, just to give like a little tangible piece here as we start to close,
Yeah,
what would you say would be like one or two things that women can start doing now to
yeah,
access all the things we're talking about? If it feels like this is like an abstract topic that we've been talking about this whole time,
right.
what are some things they can do to start tapping into that?
One of the things that I really recommend, and honestly, this came from my sex coaching training, but it's so simple. It's like really probably the tool that I use the most of all of that, like tantra stuff. But it's about like bringing my five senses into the moment and like using pleasure with all five. I don't think that they called it this, but in my head, I felt like I'm coming back to my senses because I
Yeah,
am.
that's
I'm
good.
like,
Yeah.
okay, like this is like so helpful. But, can I notice like something that feels good? And sometimes it means like changing, but like, okay, I want to put myself in pleasure in like all of these ways. Can I like have something soft, maybe like a cozy blanket and like be looking at like some beautiful flowers and maybe like, is there like a cup of cinnamon tea or can I like light the candle so that there's like the smell and the taste and just if I can like surround myself in pleasure, even in the smallest ways, but that deliberate signaling to your nervous system, like it matters. And it's
Mhm.
it's okay to like arrange this that you feel like in this moment, you're flooding your senses with pleasure and just notice how your body reacts. Because one of the things that I feel like I intuitively thought and then saw in practice and then realized was like confirmed by science. But it was that pleasure relaxes our nervous system and it
Hmm.
allows a lot of that deeper stuff to take root. So, I mean, I
Yes.
noticed like, coaching seems to go a little better if we're like at a spa day and we just had an amazing lunch. And then if I'm
Totally.
talking about, some of these deep things, it seems to like really land. Now I'm like, yeah, duh, because pleasure relaxed a lot of these defenses and pleasure
Yes.
parts of us that like could access the vision and
Hmm.
access our knowledge and
Hmm.
maybe even have our trauma melt away. And so we can do that for ourselves on this like really micro level day to day, just by like opening up with all five senses. Like, okay, what would taste good? What would feel good? What would smell good right now? And like giving ourselves, even if it's just like 5 minutes, but like a little pleasure nervous system reset.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, because well, it is when our body doesn't feel safe, we can access our intuition,
Right.
our clarity. Like it
Right.
literally blocks our access to that. So it makes total sense.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so simple. Yeah.
It's so simple. I know. And it's like, I think that part can be such like a soft on ramp. And then before you know it, you're like, oh, this is like getting closer and closer to my default state.
Yes, yes. And that's the goal. I like how you said that, that being your default state. Good. I love this so much. And I could talk to you for another 5 hours as well. But I think this is
For 20 following podcasts. No, but this was so great. And I really feel like
yes.
we hit like everything that I really was hoping we would talk about. So it feels
Yeah.
really, really good.
Good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I do have one more question I want to ask you that I ask everybody as we wrap up. But before I do that, can you let everybody know where they can find you? If there's like a next best step for them to take to kind of dive into this work with you?
Yes. In fact, there is a little mini course that I made about Mary Magdalene and mystics and witches and just kind of like all the women that we may recognize from the church sort of silencing. But that there's so much like good stuff to learn. So it's called Harlots and Heretics. And that's if anybody's like curiosity is piqued by any of this conversation, I think that would be like a really good place to start.
Perfect. I can concur with that. I've done that one and it's really good. So
Yeah.
I can say from experience.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. So
yes.
good.
So good. And I'll put the link to that and all of other Kimberly's things in the show notes so you can go check out all the things. And the question I want to ask you as we wrap up is, what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
I think really dropping in and connecting to your soul is going to result in feeling like you have a mission. Like I really, and I didn't even totally know I was doing this at the beginning, but with Uncover, which is the name of my business, I really felt like it chose me and it like chose to come through me. It feels like really similar to how I feel about my daughter. Like I just had that feeling of like, oh, I'm supposed to do this. And I think it's really knowing that you have something like that. Like it may not necessarily be a business, but it might be, or a book, or just the way you're meant to live or love people, or the way that you go through life. But that we have these missions, and I really believe it is that like, okay, for such a time as this, like I think part of me was like, oh, 2026 is gonna need you, so go down there. But I think that having that relationship, connecting with like, okay, my inner wise woman, my inner self, like what are you really wanting to say here? What are you really wanting to do and stand for and be known for? That's like really how Uncover came through.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a beautiful answer. Thank you for sharing that and for being here. And this work is so powerful and it's so important for women. And if we really do, like we've said so many times, want to be the cycle breakers and the pattern breakers, like this is so foundational. So thank you for the work that you do and for being here with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.